The candles sitting on the dining table were the ones my mother had given me the year we moved into this house. Tall ivory tapers she'd picked up on a trip to Charleston, wrapped carefully in tissue paper and nestled inside a small wooden box. She told me, "Save these for a moment worth holding on to." 25 years together, I figured that was reason enough. I'd spent most of the afternoon cooking. A whole roasted chicken with fresh herbs I'd cut from the garden out back. The garlic mashed potatoes my husband had asked for every single anniversary since our 3rd year of marriage. A lemon tart sitting in the refrigerator, waiting. Our daughter had texted around 4 in the afternoon to say she was bringing wine. Our son called to double-check the time. 7 o'clock. Everyone at the table, the way it had always been. I was arranging the centerpiece when my phone buzzed on the counter. A message from my husband. "Running a little behind, don't wait on me for drinks." I turned the phone face down and went back to the flowers. Even then, standing in that kitchen, I knew something was coming. I had known for 8 months. What I didn't know was that he had chosen tonight to finally say it out loud. He came through the front door at 7:20 with his jacket draped over his arm and a bottle of champagne I hadn't asked for. He kissed me on the cheek the way a person kisses someone they've already said goodbye to on the inside. Warm on the surface, nothing underneath. Our daughter was already at the table. Our son was filling the water glasses. My husband set the champagne on the counter, looked slowly around the room with an expression I can only describe as a man who had already moved on, and said, "Before we sit down, there's something I need to say." Our daughter looked up from her phone. Our son set down the pitcher. I stood near the head of the table, hands loose at my sides, and I waited. "I think we all know things haven't been working for a while," my husband said. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking at the candles, the tablecloth, the flowers in the center of the table, anywhere but the person who had spent the entire day making that room beautiful for him. "I've been doing a lot of thinking about what I want, about where I go from here, and I feel like it's time I stopped pretending," my son said quietly. "Dad, I'm in love with someone else," my husband said. He said it the way you announce a flight delay, factual, practiced. "I have been for a while now, and I think it's better for everyone if I stop lying about it." He paused. "Her name doesn't matter right now. What matters is that I've already spoken with an attorney. I want this to be clean. The house will need to be sorted out. My name is on the mortgage, and I plan to be fair, but realistically, keeping up this property on one income isn't going to work." "Today is your anniversary," my daughter said. He stopped. "Today," she said, her voice completely flat. "It's your 25th wedding anniversary. You're aware of that." He had the grace to look briefly uncomfortable. "I know the timing isn't ideal," my son said. There are moments inside a long marriage where you realize, with the quietness that almost surprises you, that the person sitting across from you has become a stranger. Not a dramatic stranger, not someone you never knew. A stranger in the slower sense. Someone who has, over time, stopped letting you into their inner life. You notice it the way you notice a room getting colder, not all at once, gradually, and then one day, undeniably. I had noticed it the previous March, the way his phone screen tilted away when I walked past. A business trip to Atlanta that came back with no stories and no receipts. A new gym bag that carried a faint perfume that wasn't mine. I didn't bring it up. I went to see an attorney instead. My attorney, a woman I'd been referred to by my college roommate who had survived her own version of this, spent our first meeting asking me one question in about a dozen different ways. What outcome are you trying to protect for yourself? Not what do you want to happen to him, not how do you want this to hurt him. What do you actually want your life to look like when this is over? I sat with that question for 2 days. Then I called her back and told her. She said, "Good. Now let me walk you through the agreement you signed 25 years ago." I want to say something about the prenuptial agreement because people tend to assume that couples who sign one have already accounted for failure before the marriage even starts. That wasn't how it was for us. My husband came from a family with property, a business, assets that his parents wanted shielded in the event of a worst-case scenario. I understood that completely. I wasn't offended. I read the document, sat with my own attorney, asked my questions, and signed with a clear conscience because I fully intended to stay married. What I remembered, and what he had apparently stopped thinking about, was the infidelity clause. It wasn't unusual for agreements written in that era, my attorney told me, particularly in families with significant holdings. In plain language, if either party was found to have committed documented infidelity, the betrayed spouse retained first claim on the marital home and a considerably larger share of joint assets. The clause required evidence, not accusations, documentation, which is exactly why I had spent the previous 8 months doing what I did. A private investigator, recommended by my attorney. A paper trail that was, by the time I sat down at that anniversary dinner table, thorough enough to fill a folder. I had not told my husband any of this. I stood at the head of the table while he explained, in the measured tone of someone who had rehearsed this carefully, that he believed a clean break was healthiest for everyone, that he had no intention of being difficult about the finances, that he hoped we could approach this as mature adults. Our daughter had pushed her chair back slightly, as if she needed more air. Our son was watching me, not his father, me, the way he used to watch my face when he was small and uncertain, looking for some signal about how worried to be. I reached down and lifted my handbag from where it hung on the back of my chair. I set it on the table. I unclasped it and removed a manila folder with a metal clasp at the top, the kind that looks exactly like what it is, serious paperwork. I set it down in front of my plate. My husband stopped talking. "I heard you," I said. My voice was steady. I want to be clear that I had worked on being steady. I had stood in front of the bathroom mirror and practiced it, because I had known this conversation was coming. I just hadn't known which night he'd finally decide to have it. "I want you to know I heard everything you said, and I appreciate that you chose honesty. So I'd like to offer you the same." I slid the folder across the table toward him. He looked at it the way you look at something you don't yet understand is a problem. "That's a copy," I said. "My attorney has the original. What you're holding is the prenuptial agreement we both signed on September 14th, 25 years ago. I'd like you to turn to page 7, section 4, paragraph 2. Our daughter was watching him now. Our son hadn't moved. My husband opened the folder with the careful movements of someone trying to appear calm. I watched him find page 7. I watched him read. I know the exact moment he reached the infidelity clause because the pace of his reading changed. Slower, then stopping, then going back. "Behind the agreement," I said, "you'll find dated documents, hotel receipts, phone records, a 14-page report from a licensed investigator. That section is marked with a yellow tab." He wasn't looking at me. "I've met with my attorney 4 times over the past 8 months," I said. "Everything in that folder has been reviewed and verified. The short version is this. Per the agreement your family's attorney drafted before we got married, and per the documentation I've now provided, the marital home remains in my name. The division of our joint assets shifts substantially in my favor." I folded my hands on the table. "I've already spoken with the mortgage company. I've already spoken with the bank." The silence in the room was different from the silence that had followed his announcement. That silence had been stunned and fragile. This one had weight. This was the silence of a man watching a situation rearrange itself into something he had never once considered. Our daughter made a sound that was somewhere between a laugh and a cry, something that hadn't quite decided what it wanted to be. My husband looked up from the folder. "When did you—" "March," I said, "when you came back from Atlanta." He set the folder down slowly. "You've been planning this." "I've been protecting myself," I said, "which is what you should have expected the moment you decided to stop protecting me." He started to say something. Our son stood up. "There's nothing left to talk about tonight." He wasn't shouting. He had decided somewhere in the last few minutes that calm was more useful than anger, which is something I had always hoped he would figure out. Not here, not on their anniversary. He looked at his father, and his expression is one I will carry for the rest of my life. Not hatred, something closer to grief. The face of someone releasing an idea they'd held for a very long time. "You should go, Dad." My husband looked at our daughter. She had turned to face the window. He picked up the folder. He put on his jacket. He took his keys from the counter where he dropped them an hour earlier when he walked in carrying champagne for an anniversary he had already decided to end. He paused at the door. I thought he might say something, an apology maybe. One final attempt at framing the evening in terms that still somehow worked in his favor. He didn't. He left. The door closed behind him. Our daughter reached across the table and took my hand. We ate the chicken cold, the three of us. We opened the wine she'd brought. At some point, our son said, "You made the potatoes?" And I said, "Of course I made the potatoes." And the room that had been so unbearably quiet became something softer, something more like itself. Not whole, not that night, but something that could find its way there eventually. What I know about the following 2 weeks comes mostly from what my attorney relayed to me, because I was deliberate about making myself unavailable for negotiation. My husband had consulted a second attorney who confirmed what his own reading of the agreement had already told him. The infidelity clause was solid, the documentation was extensive, and the prenuptial agreement his family's lawyer had written 25 years ago to protect his assets from me was now working in precisely the opposite direction. He was not going to get the house. He was not going to get the joint savings account that had been quietly growing for 2 decades. The account that held, among other things, money I had earned through my own consulting work. Work I had been building in the evenings for 7 years, while he assumed I was watching television. I want to address something here because I know it's a fair thing to wonder. A woman who has spent significant portions of her marriage as the primary caregiver for 2 children is not automatically standing on solid financial ground the moment a marriage ends. I understood that. I had thought about it the way you'd think about an emergency exit. Know where it is, make sure you can reach it if you have to. The consulting work had started because I missed using my degree, a master's in organizational psychology I'd essentially set aside when our daughter was born. A nonprofit had come through a mutual connection looking for help, and I'd taken the contract, done the work well, and one contract had led to another. By the time my marriage was ending, I had built something real. Modest, but real. A small client list, a steady income, a name in a professional community that had nothing to do with being someone's wife. I was not starting over from nothing. I was starting over from somewhere. My husband's girlfriend, I learned through the mild social overlap that comes from living in the same city as someone who has wronged you, had ended things with him approximately 3 weeks after he made his announcement at my dinner table. The details that reached me were vague, but the shape of what happened was clear enough. She had been expecting him to arrive with resources, the house, the savings, the stability he had described to her. When it became apparent that the assets he had implied were not going to materialize, that the clean and uncomplicated separation he'd promised had turned into a legal matter where he stood to receive considerably less than he'd anticipated, things had apparently not gone well between them. I'm still working out exactly how I feel about that. Not satisfaction precisely, not the clean relief of revenge, something more complicated. A tired kind of recognition that the choices we make about who to trust have consequences that ripple outward in ways we rarely bother to trace back to where they started. He had shared his plans with her the way he had stopped sharing things with me. He had mistaken her interest in him for something deeper than it was. He had confused desire for commitment, the same mistake, I came to understand, he had been making inside our marriage for longer than the affair itself. We finalized the divorce 7 months after that anniversary dinner. I stayed in the house. I repainted the hallway a warm terracotta that my daughter helped me choose. My mother declared it unexpected but right. I started paying more careful attention to the herb garden out back, growing varieties that actually require you to show up for them, that need water and light, and someone who notices when they're struggling. I've found that tending something living keeps you honest about where your attention actually is. My son calls on Sundays. My daughter visits when she can. My relationship with both of them is different than it was before that night. Not damaged, clarified. the way the air feels different after a heavy rain. My former husband called once, about 4 months after the divorce was finalized. He was polite in the careful way of someone who has made a deliberate choice to be polite. He said he understood I had been protecting myself. I thanked him. He asked how I was doing. I told him honestly. I said I was doing well, better than I had expected, in the particular way that happens when you stop waiting for someone else to decide what shape your life takes. There was a pause on the line that held an entire conversation inside it, one neither of us was going to have out loud. Then he said, "I should have paid more attention." I said, "Yes." I said it without anger, without the weight of all the months I had spent being unseen inside my own home. I said it because it was true, and because saying it plainly without any decoration around it was the most honest thing I could offer him. It was also, I realized after we hung up, the most honest thing he had offered me in years. I went back to the kitchen. I'd been in the middle of making dinner. The window above the sink was open. The garden outside was doing well that year. The rosemary especially, which had made it through a difficult winter against all reasonable expectation and come back thicker than before. I finished cooking. I ate at my own table, in my own house, in the particular quiet of a life that belongs entirely to you. There is a version of this story where I start with the anger, where I tell you about the nights I couldn't sleep, the hours spent going back through months of messages, searching for the moments I missed, the afternoon I sat in a parking lot outside my attorney's office and cried until I couldn't see straight and had to wait before I could drive home. That version is also true. All of it happened. But that's not the story I want to tell. What I want to tell you about is the folder on a table. The moment I reached into my handbag, that one small and deliberate movement, and set down the exact document that said, I knew, I prepared, I didn't fall apart. Not because I'm made of something harder than grief, but because I'd had 8 months to decide that the most powerful thing available to me was refusing to be the version of myself he had planned for, the wife who would crumble and plead and negotiate from a place of fear. He had spent months planning his exit. So had I. The difference was that I had read the fine print. 25 years of marriage, and the document that protected me was the one his own family had written. I have turned that irony over in my mind more than once, sat with it the way you sit with something that is both painful and, in its own way, almost funny. Something that shows you, in its precise and particular detail, how completely a life can surprise you if you are paying attention. The candles my mother gave me, I still have the ones that are left, wrapped in tissue inside the cedar box. I burned 2 of them that anniversary night. The rest are still there, waiting. She told me to save them for something worth remembering. I think I'm still finding out what that is, but I'm no longer waiting for someone else to do the lighting.